Hello and welcome to One Man's Opinion. Today I am reviewing Ivoryton Playhouse's production of Escape to Margaritaville with a book by Greg Garcia and Mike O'Malley, music and lyrics by Jimmy Buffett, directed and choreographed by Clint Hromsco, running through September 8th at the Playhouse at 103 Main Street in Ivoryton, Connecticut. Escape to my Patreon page where you can, for as little as $1 a month, support my work, including this show and my classic cinema podcast, Yesterday's Matinee, where the latest episode on The Big Chill is available for patrons. You can also find videos on restaurants and my retro reviews, where I post old reviews that I have written for print publications before I started this channel. The latest post is my Beetlejuice review, so if you were ever curious as to why I didn't like that show, you can now read the whole review. A link to my Patreon page will be in the description. If there is such a thing as a guilty pleasure musical for me, Escape to Margaritaville is it. It's a campy, fun musical featuring the music of Jimmy Buffett, which in and of itself is a songwriter who people either enjoy or tolerate at best. I personally like his mostly tropical rock music. Being a jukebox show, Greg Garcia and Mike O'Malley wisely keep the story simple with its boy meets girl narrative, never trying to force Buffett's storybook songs from ever being smashed into a narrative that doesn't fit. Sure, it's derivative storytelling with nothing new to really add to the canon of musical theater, but I like it. It's silly, lighthearted, and delightful, and doesn't try to make some big life-changing narrative. You've got Rachel, played by Margaret, who brings her best friend Tammy, played by Maggie Bera, to a tropical island for a bachelorette getaway at the Margaritaville resort, but also has her own ulterior motives to take soil samples of the island's volcano for her research in energy-producing potatoes. More focused on work than pleasure, she is initially uninterested in the charming resort musician Tully, played by Sam Sherwood, who tries to hook up with at least one woman a week who makes port at the island. With him is his dim-witted friend, aptly named Brick, played by Beau Bradshaw, who falls for the betrothed Tammy, who herself is having second thoughts about her impending marriage. The principal cast is rounded out with resort owner Marley, played by LaDonna Burns, and the one-eyed alcoholic pilot J.D., played by Don Noble, who spends his days in perpetual intoxication at the bar. If you've seen any romantic comedy, you'll have a good idea of how the musical will play out, so the show's success is dependent on the audience's favorability towards the music and the production's cast and crew to make these familiar rom-com tropes entertaining. The good thing is, Ivoryton has brought in an exceptional cast featuring a lot of what would be considered Ivoryton Playhouse and or Connecticut theater veterans and Escape to Margaritaville veterans. Margaret, Don Noble, Sam Sherwood, and much of the ensemble have performed at Ivoryton before. LaDonna Burns is making her third stage appearance in Connecticut in under a year, and Maggie Bera has played Tammy before in Engelman Theater in Northport, New York. The ensemble looks like they're having a great time with this production, and the principals are all exceptional. Tully and Rachel are the least colorful characters in the show, so Sherwood and Dudicic have the highest hill to climb as the show's leads, but they do a good job of making the two characters engaging enough to want to keep following their story. But most of the entertainment comes from the comic duos of the other two sets, Brick and Tammy and Marley and J.D. All four actors play their roles broadly enough to heighten the comedy, but not so ridiculous that the show breaches from camp to absurdity. Even when Brick starts dancing with the dead souls of insurance salesmen who died on the island during the last volcanic eruption in the song Grapefruit, Juicy Fruit, though the scene is absurd, Bradshaw plays Brick in all its simplicity, making it feel like the most natural occurrence. Ivoryton's stage is fairly small, and it is reduced even more by having to build scenes within scenes. For example, the stage left side of the set hides the Cincinnati home of Tammy and her boyfriend that opens up further on stage. Also, the band is upstage. Things like this minimize the ensemble size the show can have and the room Clint Hromsco has to choreograph the show. Still, he does a good job of fitting as many people on stage as possible and keeping the energy going without making it feel overcrowded, especially in the aforementioned Grapefruit, Juicy Fruit number with a big tap dance break in it. The biggest issue I had with the design was the costuming. For people on a tropical island, everyone was rather well covered. Not that everyone should be wearing as little as possible, I'm not suggesting anything gratuitous, but it seemed like there should have been a bit more skin showing for people who would be vacationing in the tropics. Escape to Margaritaville is a fluff piece, but it's a fun one. I'm entertained by the show every time I see it, and Ivoryton does well with this production. Obviously, if you're not a fan of Jimmy Buffett, this won't be the show for you, but for Parrot Heads, where there were a lot of the night I was in attendance, or if you're just a casual fan looking for your occasional cheeseburger in paradise, Escape to Margaritaville should be a good time. But I am only one man's opinion, so be sure to leave yours in the comments below. If you'd like to see Escape to Margaritaville, I'll leave a link in the description where you can get tickets. Also in the description will be a link to my Patreon page, so be sure to visit that as well if you'd like to support my show. You can also support my channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and click the notification bell to be alerted to future reviews. My next review will be the new revival of Once Upon a Mattress. Thank you for watching, and I will see you at the theater.